These people didn't know the blessing they had when you were around them. 333 on the clock as I say that. You raised your standards to a high level, and then they left your life. When you valued yourself and you raised your standards, maybe you battled low self-esteem in the past. Maybe you didn't know your worth. But once you got the truth of who you were, what you liked, what you disliked, and you matured in your spirit, and you learned who you were by God's love through his word, through his Bible. And when he said you're supposed to be a Proverbs 31 woman, or you learn yourself when you learn the standards that God required in order to make a king of Israel like he did King David. If you're a man watching this video, you raise your standards, and these people were forced to leave out of your life because they no longer measured up to your standards. It's not that you wanted to purposely cut these people out. You just knew you deserved better than what they were offering you. You deserved better than the disrespect they were giving you, or treating you like you were insignificant or like you weren't nobody. You literally had people in your life that treated you like you was nobody, like you was dirt under a rug, swept you away like you were just nothing. You hold no value in their life, nothing. But now that you got them out your life, you actually elevated yourself. And these same people that thought you was nobody and treated you insignificantly like you were dirt under a rug, they now are looking up at you, and they looking high up, because you are an eagle that got away from them chickens. Them chickens were on the ground, and you were just too, you flew too high for them. You were expected to fly high past these people like an eagle flying high in the sky. You wasn't expecting to be long around them chickens forever. The only reason why you were down there is for you to understand your self-worth and what you liked and what you disliked. So when you did that, you no longer give these people conversation. You no longer even entertain these individuals. And when I mean these individuals, I mean it could be anybody. It could be neighbors in your neighborhood. It could be your apartment leasing office. I don't care who it is. It could be people that you work with on your job. It could be certain family members. It could be people in your hometown. It could be exes. If it's not an ex, if you don't have any exes from your past, just ex-friends then. That's what I mean by anybody. When they left your life, your standards raised and you soared higher than ever before. See, they didn't know the blessing you carried. They didn't know your worth when you were around them, because when you were around them, you probably was doing the same things they were doing. Things that didn't give you no value. Things that didn't bear good fruit in your life. But now that you cut them people off, these people are starting to see what they missed out on and how you were just too good for them. They might not ever tell you that you're too good for them, but you are just too good for them and they mess and what they had to offer. Now people are saying you too bougie and your standards are too high, but they're not. You just matured and you wanted better for yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you wanted better for yourself. You didn't want to be labeled as a chicken or a duck or something low, but you wanted to be treated like you were royalty. And now that's what you're getting. You're no longer associating with people that don't see your value. You don't even give them no more conversation. You said if they didn't get it, if they were too silly enough to get that, or they just didn't care, why would you waste your energy on these type of people? You stop talking, you stop communicating with them, and you darn near treating them like they were non-existent. You don't even see them when they walk past you. They're like a ghost. Casper the friendly ghost, but they weren't friendly, so they was worse than Casper. So you treat these people like the ghosts that they are because they didn't treat you right. They thought you were supposed to have low standards because they just expected you to have low standards based off whatever they thought about you. And there was no reason for them to have those type of thoughts about you. They just wanted to have those type of thoughts. So you just stop talking to these people. You stop dealing with them. You stop doing what they told you to do. And you said, hey, you ain't got time to worry about nothing no more. No more foolishness, because when your standards raised, it changed your circle. It even changed your environment. You no longer associate with messy people. People that want to catch you up in drama. People that want to start stuff with you and then throw a rock and then hide their hands like they ain't do nothing. You got many people out here that operate that way. They throw stones and rocks at you, but they full of sin and wickedness and full of mess. And then when you look back at them, they hide their hands like they ain't did nothing, like you the problem, when they know the whole time they were the problem. But in order to trip you up and make it seem like you were a crazy person, they turn it off and point the finger at you. When they know why you reacted the way you reacted towards them. You got grown adults acting like this out here. Not children. I'm talking about grown adults. People in your very neighborhood. Maybe your neighbor across the street or your neighbor down the street. Or whoever is around you. These adults acting like children in high school. Not like the adults they are. But they thought they was better than you. But these people probably drug addicts, junkies, drug dealers, and everything else. You'll be surprised. But in their mind, they better than you when they're not. They just haven't grew up. They adults in a child body. I mean, they're a child in an adult's body, should I say. They're supposed to be adults, but they got childlike behavior. They didn't learn the lesson on how to treat people. So God got to give them a hard lesson on his own. But you were required to move yourself from them and raise your standards in order to shift spiritually away from these people. And you have done that. And these people can't handle that. They can't handle who you are and what you stand for and what you're really about. Because they was expecting you to be a peasant like they were. When you're not a peasant, you're like a king or a queen with a crown on your head, like royalty. Like Yahushua was a king with royalty on his head in the Bible. But yet you had the Pharisees and all these haters, them haters treating him like he was a peasant. But he was royalty from the Heavenly Father. And he still got his crown. He still received his crown from heaven, even after all that affliction that they gave him and crucifying him. He still is known as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords throughout the whole earth, even after all that. So it don't matter what these people think about you. It only matters what God thinks about you. And just because the people want the world to believe you a peasant, their word do not come first above God's word about you and who God says you are. You literally got to look at your life through heaven's eyes, not the way mankind see you. Sometimes mankind will have it false, tell a false narrative about you, all because they just don't like the shoes you wore for the day. So they perceived you based off something you wore for a short time. They saw you with sneakers on when you didn't have them Jordans or Air Force Ones. You know, the stuff that teenagers used to, like back in the day. I don't know if you grew up when I was in high school, but when I was in high school, you were only popular and best when you had the next Air Force Ones out on market. You got the newest ones. But if you ain't have that, you was considered a nobody. But them Air Force Ones didn't define the individual. That person's spirit defined that individual. But because you had on the latest outfit or the shoes, mankind would tell you you're more important than the person wearing the sneakers. But God will look at the one with the sneakers more important than the one wearing the Air Force Ones, because the one with the sneakers heart is upright. And the one with the Air Force Ones heart is not upright, but they're wearing popular shoes and they're being popular, but they're not walking righteously. You see how that works? This is why you can't go by what man think about you and what man say about you based off their preconceived notion about you or their perception of you as a person. And that's what you're starting to get. So now that you raise your standards, you no longer fit around these people. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. You just know your value the way God saw your value. And you don't have time for no more foolishness from people. So now you learn to not even talk to people, not even deal with people, not even associate with people. That's what you learn. You learn to keep your energy and not give your energy over to peasants and swine, literally pigs, because these people behaved and acted like pigs when it came to how they treated you and the standards that they carried. And they expected you to carry them low standards too. So now you learning how to deal with different groups of people and different types of people because of this, because you raise your standards and you're able to see people for who they really are. Little do they know, because you raise your standards. And they can't take that from you. They can tell the word about you. They can say everything negative about you to others. Now, if them people choose to believe what that person or them people say about you and not get to know you for themselves, then that's their problem. That ain't got nothing to do with you, how they feel about you. Because they based how they felt about you over what somebody else said without getting to know you for themselves. That make them look foolish. That make them look stupid. That make them look heck dumb to do that. But again, that still ain't got nothing to do with you. So because you raised your standards, these people they had to mysteriously leave your life. Your standards are too high. Your self-esteem is too high for these type of people. Your position in the heavenly kingdom, your spiritual ranking is too high for these people. And they can't do nothing about that, but just watch you rise without them. And that's another prophetic message that I got for a royal one. And until next time, keep your standards high and stay away from peasants. Shalom.